Hey everyone, Emma here, and we're learning about the human nervous system. Did you know you've got more nerve cells in your brain than there are stars in the entire Milky Way? Wow! So let's start learning about it. In the homeostasis video, we learned that a stimulus is a change in the environment and that these changes are detected by receptor cells. There are 5 main sense organs in the body. Pause and see if you can name them and what they detect. Alright, so the eye detects light, the nose detects chemicals, this is by smell. The tongue also detects chemicals, but this time it's more by taste. The ears detect both sound and balance, basically being level. And the skin detects pressure and temperature. Once a stimulus is detected by receptor cells, nerves will carry this information to the central nervous system, or the CNS. This is made up of the brain and the spinal cord. Before we look at the journey through the nervous system, you need to know what neurons are. These are individual nerve cells. Here's a picture of one. It's not very good, but you'll see some on the next page that are a little bit better. If you have loads of them bundled together, say hundreds or thousands, then this is actually called a nerve. So that's the difference. A neuron is just one nerve cell. Okay, now let's take a look at the path of the nervous system. So, a stimulus occurs. The first thing that happens is the receptor cell detects that stimulus, that change in the environment, and this causes an impulse to then be passed onto a sensory neuron. This passes the impulse to a relay neuron and then to a motor neuron. So we've got 3 neurons. Finally, the motor neuron will then trigger the effector to carry out a response. Let's look at an example. So here our stimulus is some cold ice cream dripping onto a finger. The skin cells in the finger are going to detect that, and they're going to trigger an electrical impulse to be passed on the sensory neuron. This then passes on to the relay neuron, which is in the central nervous system, the spine and the brain. The impulse passes through the motor neuron and then to the effector. In this example, the muscle in the finger would move away from the dripping ice cream. In reality, lots of other responses could also happen, like salivary glands releasing saliva in preparation for licking the ice cream. Now, just to point out that this is a one-way system, and because it's happening through electrical impulses, it is very, very fast. Okay, speaking of impulses, we're going to point out a little bugbearer. We don't call them messages. Examiners hate that. We must call them impulses. Another tip is how to remember the relay neuron is like a relay race. So if you think about it, in a relay race, you pass on a baton from one person to another. So it's passing between different people. A relay neuron also just passes an impulse between different neurons. Alright, pause, try these questions, and press play when you're ready to go over them. Number 1. What is the central nervous system? This is the brain and the spinal cord. 2. Explain the difference between a nerve and a neuron. Well, a neuron is one cell, whereas a nerve is a bundle of many neurons, or lots of cells. 3. Which 2 sense receptors can detect chemicals? It's the nose and the tongue. 4. Complete the sequence for how the nervous system works. Well, the first step is always a stimulus, which is picked up by receptor cells. Then this triggers an electrical impulse in the sensory neuron, passed on to the relay neuron, then the motor neuron, to the effector, which finally produces a response. 5. How is information transmitted through the human nervous system? This is via electrical impulses, which are carried by neurons. And finally, 6. Muscles are one type of effector, name the other, it's glands. Alright, how did you do? You've probably heard of reflex actions, but do you know how they work? Click here to find out, and if you find this useful, click here to subscribe. Thanks and bye!